Hello and welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for May of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kell Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California. Let's take a look at what's happening in May.
Well, Virgo, we're going to begin this horoscope with a look at Pluto. Pluto has been very busy traveling along through your fifth house for more than a decade. In his journey through Capricorn, Pluto has been bringing transformation and metamorphosis, profound changes, and the unearthing of quite a few of things hidden, like secrets and mysteries. Things have come to light which have really transformed the Capricorn areas of life, including authority figures, hierarchies, big business and corporations, governments, any place where we see people in power. Those power structures have been crumbling because of the pressure of Pluto. And Pluto has, in that time period, been traveling along through your fifth house and transforming you through through the things that you do that are creative processes, through the things that you do for fun, and potentially through your connection with children. So during the last decade, perhaps you have undergone a transformation in your personality through some creative process that you do on a regular basis. Perhaps your creativity has surged to the surface in a volcanic way and changed you forever. Perhaps you live with children, and perhaps those children have been speaking truth to power, i.e. to you, and telling you what they see. And it's really up to you as to how you've handled that. You know, have you sort of squashed the messenger, or have you listened and let yourself be transformed by what people are saying to you? So, you know, definitely as Pluto is moving through your fifth house, there may have been some major ego blows, but taking that and turning it into an opportunity for transformation is the high road for sure. Now Pluto is peeking his little head over into your sixth house just for a couple of months this year. He's going to be returning to Capricorn and then finish out the year back in your fifth house. And then we'll move into your sixth house for reals next year and spend more than a decade there. So the sixth house is the house of health, work, service, and personal organization. And Pluto's going to bring his characteristic detective work, transformation, metamorphosis, and death and rebirth experiences to this new domain. Now, when Pluto shows up in your workplace, you might find that you're feeling like your job is dead, and that you don't feel any life in it anymore, and that it really needs to change. It needs to slough off the old skin and be reborn as something which might look very, very different. So prepare for this to come about in a slow-moving, long-term, deep way, sometime over the next decade. And when it does, just do your best to make the transition to a new job or a new kind of work in a way that's as graceful and gracious as you can. And we'll be talking about this more as Pluto moves on into Aquarius, as I said, for reals next year. So let's go to Juno now. And here she is traveling along through your ninth house, which is where she's been in the last 2 months. And early in the month, she moves ahead into your 10th house. Now, Juno is all about partnership, collaboration, and networking and matchmaking. She's very social. She likes to manage teams of people And she likes to get you into relationship with the right people and introduce the right people to each other. When she enters into your 10th house, you can look at this a couple of different ways. You can see Juno impacting the domain of your career and authority and your reputation. And you can also see your career and that domain and the domain of putting in an effort. This is what the 10th house is. It's the domain of stuff that we've got to work hard at. And if we do, that where we can really achieve and we can build skill. And this is the arena that will be contextualizing Juno as she's passing through this house. So when we think about Juno impacting your 10th house, we would say that this is the time to bring the spirit of collaboration into your career, and to look for who you can partner with to forward your career along the arc of your career, and to make you look better, to give you a better professional reputation. And also how you might bring your social abilities into the realm of your career so that you can manage the people that you have to manage there and manage the relationships with all those people in a better way while Juno is passing through this house. She spends about 2 months per house. So you've got a little time to figure out exactly how to utilize this. Now, when we think about Juno being contextualized by the 10th house, then I would say this is a really great 2-month period to spend working on your committed partnerships, really bringing a work ethic. And if your partnership has been falling apart and struggling, whether it's a marriage or a business partnership, this is a really great time to apply yourself and do the construction or reconstruction that's needed to build it up to be the strong thing that you were so proud of when you first engaged in it. Now, I want to talk about Ceres, and here she is traveling along through Virgo in your first house. Ceres went retrograde in February in your second house, triggering a financial rebalancing period. And at that time, you may have noticed that things were starting to get a little bit tangled up in your finances, or some problems that had been going on beneath the surface began to emerge, and that you had to put some attention into your finances and reorganize or clean up or restructure how you earn, spend, save, and manage your money. Since then, in the months in between, she has retrograded, traveled backwards into your first house, and is right now here in Virgo, and thankfully is going direct this month, pretty early in the month. And I've been saying that this was going to happen in the last couple of months of horoscopes. When Ceres retrograde into your first house, Virgo, it probably began to feel personal. And you might have felt like, wow, am I like not worth very much? Why is this mess happening? And how do I discover my real value that I bring to the world? And how do I bring that value in a way that allows me to be compensated? And how do I deserve that? And how do I get what I deserve? So all of these thoughts may have been rolling around in the back of your mind. And now that Ceres is going direct, there can be some forward motion about it all. And as Ceres leaves your first house, it begins to be less personal. And then you can see some results in your actual finances. So that sounds like some pretty good stuff to me. Hey, Julia, what's up with Mercury, Venus, and Mars for the Virgos of the world, especially Mercury? That's a ruling planet for Virgo.
It is. Let's start with Mercury. So Virgo, Mercury starts the month retrograde this month, and this happens 3 times a year. So it's a pretty common cycle, but it can still really throw people off nonetheless, especially you, since it is your ruling planet. Unless you were born under a Mercury retrograde, then these time periods tend to go a little bit easier, but that's the majority of people are born with it direct. So Mercury starts the month retrograde in your ninth house. This is a travel house, and Mercury is a travel planet. So any type of travel you're doing, especially early on in the month, you might run into frustrations, delays. Keep your itinerary loose if you can, and try to get to an airport or a train early, because, Mercury retrograde periods are notorious for travel snafus, and you have it especially in your ninth house. This is also a house of higher education. So if you are learning anything new, whether you're back at school or something like a workshop, you might have to go back and learn things that you thought you had already grasped. Or you might have to go back and re-edit some papers, for example. So learning can be a little bit more challenging under this retrograde cycle for you as well. And by May 1st, so very early on in the month, Mercury is going to exactly conjoin the sun while retrograde, and we call that Lesser Epiphany Day. This is actually a good day to keep track of because you might run into some insights, which can be very helpful during a Mercury retrograde period, because it might give you a little bit of clarity about the miscommunications or, messy travel plans, or even things that you've been learning that have been really kind of confusing and making things a little squirrely for you. Now, by May 14th, Mercury is going to finally go direct. So that's just 2 weeks into the month, and all of these issues are going to start getting a lot easier. And I'd give it about a week after the 14th to officially say that this Mercury retrograde season is over, because that's how long it takes for Mercury to reach back up to speed in the sky. Now we'll talk about a little bit more of a pleasant planet, which is Venus. She starts the month in your 10th house for the first week of the month. And wherever we have Venus, we get pleasure, we get along with people, and where we can kind of come off a little more harmonious and beautiful. So in your 10th house, this is a public house. So if you do anything in the public eye, you could come off more charming, more elegant, more beautiful, more diplomatic too. It would be nice for public speaking as well. And Venus in the 10th can mean that you get along well with the people you work with, including authority figures like your boss. Now, on May 7th, Venus enters your 11th house, and there you're just going to have a bit more of a social time in your life. The 11th is your friends. The 11th is any groups you're a part of. If you go to a conference, if you work in a team, anytime you see yourself surrounded by other people is the 11th house. So Venus here will give you a little bit more harmony in your relationships. Maybe a friend will do something nice for you, pull a favor for you, offer to pay for dinner, or, just really be there when you need them. And Venus in the 11th can give you a little extra luck in achieving one of your long-term goals, or at least getting a bit closer to it, because that's what the 11th house also rules. Now, another planet is going to be in the 11th house too, and that's Mars. Mars does feel a lot different than Venus. He's a lot feistier. He can bring frustrations and conflict. And he's going to be in the 11th house at the beginning of the month, not when Venus is. She joins him a week later. So the first week of the month actually might be the more testing times in your friendships, because Mars can be a little bit competitive, a little bit combative. So the very first week of the month, there might be a little bit more, static in your friendships and also in the groups that you're a part of. But Venus will join Mars in this house, which will actually kind of help nullify and sort of help smooth over some of Mars's rough edges. A great use of Mars in the 11th is being very driven to achieve some goal of yours. This was the house of hopes, wishes, and dreams. That's what the ancient astrologer said about it. So yeah, with both of these planets, Venus and Mars here, feel really driven by some of your goals. Try to get a little bit closer to one of them this month. But by May 20th, Mars will then enter your 12th house. This is a house of isolation. This is a house of rest. It can rule your subconscious. And when Mars comes into this house, it can be very hard to express your anger. It's very hard to be direct about your anger, even direct about your actions. Now, Mars in the 12th can have a little bit of a reputation of acting behind people's backs or not being above board about it. And again, if you do notice yourself being tempted to do anything like that, I think it would be best to just sort of resist a little bit with Mars in the 12th house, because the 12th house is a notoriously tricky place. But Mars in the 12th house can be very driven towards serving something higher than yourself. This is the highest I guess, interpretation you can have with Mars in the 12th, because the 12th house is about getting beyond yourself. It's not a house of ego. And usually Mars is a very ego-related planet. So if you can do something to serve something higher, like maybe if you have an elderly neighbor that you can check in on and bring her some groceries, or be there for somebody who really needs you, that is definitely the highest, the expression of this transit, and one that's definitely worth going for too.
Yeah, it's about being the hero instead of the villain.
Exactly.
Hi, Jamie here. I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video. And if you're enjoying it, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Your support helps keep this content free, and you can also get access to workshops where I will cast your chart live in the workshop. The link can be found in the description below. Thanks again, and let's get back to the video. Well, we have 2 moons this month, as we generally do, but these moons are definitely not equal. The first one is a super intense lunar eclipse in Scorpio, where that moon lands in your 3rd house. And eclipses are times when we are forced to look at a side of ourselves that we don't see every day and don't even want to see every day. Lunar eclipses are times when that process happens through our emotions rather than our actions. Actions are usually what comes up during a solar eclipse, but this is a lunar. And this particular eclipse involves a moon in Scorpio, which is going to be so much more sensitive than other moons. Moon in Scorpio can veer into some of the tougher emotions to process, some of the stuff that we really don't like feeling, like self-destructive tendencies, like painful emotions of shame, and those sorts of things that are really uncomfortable. And this particular moon is landing in your 3rd house, which is the house of communication. And so you might find that under this moon, you're feeling so much more sensitive in your conversations. It may be hard for you to hear what other people are trying to say through the storm of negative feelings that you're having. And this moon, I think, it's funny because the fact that it's a full moon makes it a relational dynamic, because the sun and the moon oppose each other. And so there is a polarity. So there is another point of view here. And that point of view might be supportive and helpful to you to kind of break through that storm of emotions. But it also might occur for you as like, somebody just being really reactive to you, or somebody being impassive towards you and just not getting all the feelings that you're having. And I think, we find in a lot of our experiences what we bring to them. But I will say that these 3 planets together here, Uranus, Sun, and Vesta, are very grounded, very practical, and definitely impassive and not so emotional. And so there may be somebody in your life who wants to occupy these planets for you and reflect something to you that will help you to I don't know, talk you down from a tree, let's say, or clear the storm clouds away. But it might be hard to hear that person's response to you when it comes, across in the form of communication. So so paying attention to communication and noticing that you're going to probably be pretty triggerable around it during this moon is more than half of the battle. After that, opening your mind and your heart up to what a very grounded and solid person in your life that you can depend on, and a benevolent person might have to say is probably going to be a winning solution. We've called this moon, you are not in control. And that's going to be a feeling that a lot of us are having under this moon. So the second moon is so much nicer. It happens on the 19th. And you can learn so much more about these moons and how to handle them on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the forecast tab, where you'll find the monthly forecast and you'll find videos about these moons and other stuff going on this month too. So the May 19th new moon is so fertile. New moons are always about planting new seeds. And this particular moon being in Taurus happening in May is just, it's so much about planting seeds that are solid, that are strong, planted deep in good quality earth that can spring forth and grow into something very real. And when I say that this moon is fertile, I do mean that literally. If you're wanting to conceive, this could be a good time to do it. And if you're not wanting to conceive, you should probably protect against that. Now, this moon is landing in your 9th house. And as I said before, there's tons of harmony with this moon and zero stress. This moon is in late degrees of Taurus, and it forms a beautiful sextile to Mars, another sextile to Neptune, a trine to Ceres, and a trine to Pluto. And what I love about that is that anytime you see a trine to Pluto like this, it's like you can get a transformation that happens so gradually and slowly that it doesn't shock your system at all. And in fact, it doesn't even have to hurt. So this moon can plant the seeds that lead to that kind of transformation after the blossoming of what you've planted. And these things don't bear fruit right away. I mean, nothing does. A new moon is about planting the seeds that will lead to something in the future. And this one can lead to some beautiful transformations that don't even have to be as uncomfortable as the lunar eclipse was earlier this month. And then there's the seasonal change. At the beginning of the month, there's so much emphasis in your 9th house. And do you know, I think I haven't even described this house enough. It's a house of travel and growth and expansion. It's a travel of adventure and exploration, and all of the emphasis on this house early in the month, which Julia mentioned, especially relative to Mercury being here. With all this emphasis, it's such a great month for going on trips, for being involved in growth processes, for expanding, for engaging with your own philosophy of life, or religious pursuits and experiences. Anything that expands you and brings you to a place of joy and resilience is great stuff to be doing earlier in the month while it's so very full. However, after the 19th, the moon quickly moves out into Gemini, and then the sun on the 21st moves out into Gemini, which is your 10th house. And so the 9th house is not as full as it was, and there begins to be a new emphasis over here in the realm of career. Now, the sun is best represented by sunlight, which finds its corollary in human psychology in the form of attention. And so wherever the sun travels in your chart, you want to bring your high quality attention. Shine the sunlight of your attention into that arena so that things can flourish. And don't be afraid to be shiny and showy and glowy and take up space in that arena while the sun is traveling through there. The 10th house, of course, is the realm of career and authority, your authority particularly, while the sun is there. And this could be a time when you're really shining that way in your career, when your reputation has the full light of daylight on it. And it's really up to you as to whether that reputation is a good one or not. And so this can be a time for public appearances, for putting the shine on your reputation and putting yourself out there in public in the best possible way, maybe in your place of business or maybe as a representation for a business that you run. So the sun will be here for about 30 days after it arrives on the 21st. That's completely normal. The sun's movement is very regular. It spends about 30 days per house. And while it's here, be shiny at work. Expend your charisma At work, be creative at work. Express your big personality and watch your reputation grow.
Well, that's all for today. If you love Pandora Astrology's free and informative horoscopes, please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share our horoscopes with your friends.
We make these horoscopes for you for free, and if you appreciate it, supporting us on Patreon is the best way to show it. Share our horoscopes with your friends too. Enjoy your May, and until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.